Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and on today's video I'll be predicting the NBA season. Watch until the end to find out. Let's get this video started! This season there will be a full 82 game schedule. Here are my Eastern Conference standing predictions. The Orlando Magic, 22-60. The Orlando Magic had a horrible season last year, winning 21 games and losing 51 games and finishing second to last in the Eastern Conference. They missed the playoffs last season after making the postseason for the previous 2 seasons in a row. Last season was their worst winning percentage since the 2013-2014 campaign. This season, I suspect that the Orlando Magic will be the worst team in the Eastern Conference, but won't be the worst team in the league. The Detroit Pistons, 24-58. The Detroit Pistons were the second worst team in the league last season, winning 20 games and losing 52 games. They haven't had a winning season since the 2018-2019 campaign, and also that was their last playoff appearance. Last season was their 5th worst season in franchise history. So my prediction is that the Detroit Pistons won't be that good this season and will finish in the bottom of the standings this year. The Cleveland Cavaliers, 28-54. The Cleveland Cavaliers had a bad season last year, winning 22 games and losing 50 games, and finished as the 13th seed in the Eastern Conference. They have missed the playoffs for the last 3 seasons in a row, and their last playoff appearance came in the 2017-2018 campaign. That was also their last season with LeBron James on their team, and also their last NBA Finals appearance. This season, Kevin Love could be traded sometime this year. So I absolutely think that the Cleveland Cavaliers will have a better season this year, but won't be a playoff contender this year. The Washington Wizards, 35-47. The Washington Wizards had a decent season last year by making the playoffs with a record under 500. Their record last season was 34 wins and 38 losses, and they finished as the 8th seed. In the playoffs, they played against the Philadelphia 76ers in the first round, and unfortunately they lost that series in 5 games. In the offseason, they traded away Russell Westbrook to the Lakers. So I suspect that the Washington Wizards won't have a good season this year with a record under 500 and will miss the playoffs. The Toronto Raptors, 38-44. The Toronto Raptors had a horrible, disappointing season last year with a record of 27 wins and 45 losses. It was a disappointing season because they had a winning percentage over 700 the season before, and before that they won the NBA Finals. Before they missed the playoffs last season, they had previously made 7 playoff appearances before missing the postseason last campaign. That was their franchise record for most playoff appearances in a row. So my prediction is that the Toronto Raptors will be a better team overall this season, but won't be a playoff team this year. The Charlotte Hornets, 41-41. The Charlotte Hornets had a decent season last year, winning 33 games and losing 39 games. They haven't made the playoffs since the 2015-2016 season, and their last season with a record over 500 winning percentage was in the same campaign. So I suspect that the Charlotte Hornets will be a lot better team this season and could make the play-in tournament this year. The Chicago Bulls, 42-40. The Chicago Bulls had a lot better season last year with 31 wins and 41 losses. They haven't made the playoffs since the 2016-2017 campaign. Their last season with a record over 500 winning percentage was in the 2016-2017 season. So my prediction is that they will have their best season since the 2015-2016 campaign and could make a playoff appearance this year. The Indiana Pacers, 43-39. The Indiana Pacers had a disappointing season last year by missing the playoffs for the first time since the 2014-2015 campaign. Before they missed the playoffs last season, they had previously made 5 straight appearances. Their record last season was 34 wins and 38 losses, and that was their first losing season since the 2014-2015 campaign. So I absolutely think that the Pacers will have a bounce-back season this year and will have a great chance of making a playoff spot. The New York Knicks, 44-38. The New York Knicks had a fantastic season last year by making the playoffs for the first time since the 2012-2013 campaign. Their record last season was 41 wins and 31 losses, and they finished as the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. In the playoffs, they played against Atlanta Hawks in the first round, and unfortunately they lost that series in 5 games. By all means, I think that the New York Knicks will have another good season this year and should make their 2nd straight playoff appearance in a row. The Atlanta Hawks, 46-36. The Atlanta Hawks had their best season since the 2016-2017 campaign because they made the playoffs for the first time since then. In the playoffs, they played against Milwaukee in the conference finals, and unfortunately they lost that series in 6 games. That was their deepest playoff run since the 2014-2015 campaign. Their record last season was 41 wins and 31 losses, and they finished as the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. So my prediction is that the Atlanta Hawks will have a better season this year and will make a playoff spot. The Boston Celtics, 47-35. The Boston Celtics had a disappointing season last year even though they made the playoffs. That's because their record wasn't as good as it should have been. Their record last season was 36 wins and 36 losses compared to the previous season when they had a winning percentage over 600. In the playoffs, they played against the Brooklyn Nets in the first round and unfortunately they lost that series in 5 games. So I think that the Boston Celtics will have a bounce-back season this year and will make their 7th straight playoff appearance in a row. The Miami Heat, 49-33. The Miami Heat had a good season last year, but at the same time they had a disappointing season because they didn't make the NBA Finals last year after making it the year before. Their record last season was 40 wins and 32 losses, and they finished as the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. In the playoffs, they played against Milwaukee in the first round, and unfortunately they got swept in that series. So my prediction is that Miami Heat will be a great team again this season and will be an NBA Finals contender this year. The Philadelphia 76ers, 51-31. The Philadelphia 76ers had a great season last year because they were the best team in the Eastern Conference. Their record last season was 49 wins and 23 losses. In the playoffs, they played against Atlanta Hawks in the conference semifinals, and unfortunately they lost that series in 7 games. There is a lot of drama with Ben Simmons this year, and he could be traded this season. But I think that they should keep him instead of trading him. So my prediction is that the Philadelphia 76ers will be a great team again this season and could be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference this year. The Milwaukee Bucks, 56-26. Milwaukee had a glorious season last year by winning their first NBA Finals championship since the 1970-1971 campaign. They have won 2 NBA Finals championships in their franchise history. Their record last season was 46 wins and 26 losses, and they finished as the 3rd best seed in the Eastern Conference. In the NBA Finals, they played against the Phoenix Suns and won that series in 6 games. At one point of that series, Milwaukee was down 2-0 and won the next 4 games to become NBA champions. So my prediction is Milwaukee will have another fantastic season this year and will have a great chance of winning their 2nd straight NBA Finals title. The Brooklyn Nets, 57-25. The Brooklyn Nets had a really good season last year because they had their best winning percentage since the 2001-2002 season. Their record last season was 48 wins and 24 losses, and they finished as the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference. In the playoffs, they played against Milwaukee in the conference semifinals, and unfortunately they lost that series in 7 games. Brooklyn has one of the best rosters in the NBA this season. This season, my prediction is that the Brooklyn Nets will be the best team in the Eastern Conference and will have a fantastic chance of winning the NBA Finals this year. Here are my Western Conference standing predictions. The Oklahoma City Thunder, 20-62. The Oklahoma City Thunder had their first season of the rebuilding period. In year 1 of the rebuilding period, their record was 22 wins and 50 losses, and they finished as the 2nd worst seed in the Western Conference. Last season was their 2nd worst season in winning percentage in franchise history since they became a team in the 2008-2009 season. Since they became the Oklahoma City Thunder, they have only missed the playoffs 3 times in franchise history. This season, I suspect that the Oklahoma City Thunder will be rebuilding for a 2nd consecutive season in a row, and they should be the worst team in the Western Conference. The Houston Rockets, 23-59. The Houston Rockets had a miserable season last year by being the worst team in the league. Their record last season was 17 wins and 55 losses. That was their first time missing the playoffs since the 2011-2012 season. This will be their first season in rebuilding mode, and they will be trading any veteran players before the trade deadline. I'm positive that the Houston Rockets will be one of the worst teams in the NBA this season and could potentially land a top 5 draft pick this year. The San Antonio Spurs, 32-50. The San Antonio Spurs had another bad season last year by missing the playoffs for a 2nd consecutive season in a row after making the playoffs every year since the 1997-1998 season. In that period, they made the playoffs 22 straight seasons in a row and won 5 NBA titles. That's just pretty amazing to do that. They have one of the best NBA coaches of all time. This season, I predict that the San Antonio Spurs will have their worst season since the 1996-1997 campaign. The Sacramento Kings, 33-49. The Sacramento Kings had another bad season last year because they missed the playoffs for a 15th straight season in a row. Their last playoff appearance came in the 2005-2006 season. They have had the same record for the last 2 seasons in a row, and they finished as the 12th seed in the Western Conference. By all means, I think that the Sacramento Kings won't be that good of a team this season, and I suspect that they will miss the playoffs for a 16th straight season in a row. The Minnesota Timberwolves, 35-47. The Minnesota Timberwolves had a little bit better season last year than the previous season, but they did finish the season in the bottom of the Western Conference. Their record last season was 23 wins and 49 losses. They haven't made the playoffs since the 2017-2018 season, and before that, their last appearance came in the 2003-2004 campaign. This season, I suspect that the Minnesota Timberwolves will be overall a better team, but won't be a playoff contender this year. The New Orleans Pelicans, 40-42. The New Orleans Pelicans had a bad season last year by not making the playoffs for a 3rd consecutive season in a row. Their record last season was 31 wins and 41 losses, and they finished as 11th seed in the Western Conference. Since the beginning of this franchise that started playing in the 2002-2003 season, they have only made the playoffs 7 times. So my prediction is that the New Orleans Pelicans will have a lot better season this year and could possibly make a playoff spot this year. The Memphis Grizzlies, 42-40. The Memphis Grizzlies had a pretty good season last year by making the playoffs after missing them the previous 3 seasons in a row. Their record last season was 38 wins and 34 losses, and they finished as the 9th seed in the Western Conference. In the playoffs, they played against the Utah Jazz in the first round and unfortunately lost that series in 5 games. This season, I suspect that the Memphis Grizzlies will be a playoff contender this year. The Portland Trail Blazers, 44-38. The Portland Trail Blazers had a pretty good season last year, but it was a disappointing season at the same time. The reason why it was a disappointing season was because they were eliminated right away in the playoffs in the first round against the Denver Nuggets in 6 games. In 4 of the last 5 playoff appearances, they have lost in the first round, and their deepest playoff run was in the 2018-2019 season when they went to the conference finals. They have made the playoffs for 8 consecutive seasons in a row. Their record last year in the shortened season was 42 wins and 30 losses, and they finished as the 6th seed in the Western Conference. This season, the Portland Trail Blazers got a new head coach who was the assistant coach for the Clippers. Portland does have one of the best players in the NBA this year. So I absolutely think that the Portland Trail Blazers will have a great season this year and should be a dark horse contender for a NBA Finals appearance. The Dallas Mavericks, 45-37. The Dallas Mavericks have made the playoffs for 2 straight seasons in a row after missing the playoffs for the previous 3 seasons in a row before. In their previous 2 playoff appearances, they have lost both in the first round. Their record last season was 42 wins and 30 losses, and they finished as the 5th seed in the Western Conference. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Los Angeles Clippers in the first round, and unfortunately they lost that series in 7 games. They have one of the best players in the NBA this year. So my prediction is that the Dallas Mavericks will be a fantastic team this year and should be a dark horse contender for an NBA Finals appearance. The Los Angeles Clippers, 46-36. The Los Angeles Clippers had a fantastic season last year by having their deepest playoff run in franchise history. In the shortened season due to COVID-19, they won 47 games and lost 25 games and finished as the 4th seed in the Western Conference. In the playoffs, they played against the Phoenix Suns in the conference finals, and unfortunately they lost that series in 6 games. The Clippers have some of the best players in the NBA this year, so I absolutely think that the Los Angeles Clippers will have another great season this year after having a great building block of a season last year and could possibly win the NBA Finals this season. The Denver Nuggets, 49-33. The Denver Nuggets had a pretty good season last year by making the playoffs for a 3rd consecutive season in a row. Their record last season was 47 wins and 25 losses, and they finished as the 3rd seed in the Western Conference. In the playoffs, they played against the Phoenix Suns in the conference semifinals, and unfortunately they got swept in that series. They have one of the best players in the NBA this year. I'm positive that the Denver Nuggets will be a playoff team this season and are a contender for NBA Finals appearance this year. The Golden State Warriors, 50-32. The Golden State Warriors had a good bounce-back season last year after missing the playoffs the year before. Their record last season was 39 wins and 33 losses, and they finished as the 8th seed in the Western Conference. They didn't make the playoffs last season, but they did play in the play-in tournament last season, and unfortunately they lost both games to qualify for a playoff spot. Before they missed the playoffs in back-to-back seasons, they had made the playoffs 7 times in a row, including 5 NBA Finals appearances and winning 3 of them. So I absolutely think that the Golden State Warriors will have an even better season this year and could win an NBA Finals this season. The Phoenix Suns, 51-31. The Phoenix Suns had their best season in a long time with a winning percentage over 700. That was their first playoff appearance since the 2009-2010 season and also their first NBA Finals appearance since the 1992-1993 campaign. Their record last season was 51 wins and 21 losses, and they finished as the second best team in the league. In the NBA Finals, they played against Milwaukee, and unfortunately they lost that series in 6 games. At one point in that series, they had a 2-game lead over Milwaukee, and then they lost the next 4 games in a row. So my prediction is that the Phoenix Suns will have another fantastic season this year and could possibly make a second straight NBA Finals appearance in a row. The Los Angeles Lakers, 53-29. The Los Angeles Lakers had a disappointing season last year by not making it past the first round of the playoffs after winning the NBA Finals the year before. In the playoffs, they played against the Los Angeles Lakers in the first round, and unfortunately they lost that series in 6 games. Their record last season was 42 wins and 30 losses, and they finished as the 7th seed in the Western Conference. The Lakers now have made the playoffs in back-to-back seasons in a row for the first time in a while. They have one of the best rosters in the NBA this season. So I absolutely think that the Los Angeles Lakers will be a playoff contender this season and will be a really competitive team for an NBA Finals appearance. They are an NBA Finals contender this season. The Utah Jazz, 55-27. The Utah Jazz had their best season in winning percentage since the 1997-1998 campaign. In the shortened season last year due to COVID-19, they won 52 games and lost 20 games, and they finished as the best team in the league. They have made the playoffs for 5 consecutive seasons in a row. In the playoffs, they played against the Los Angeles Clippers in the conference semifinals and unfortunately lost that series in 6 games. So my prediction is that the Utah Jazz will be one of the best teams in the league this year and will have a great chance of winning their first ever NBA Finals championship in franchise history. So those are my NBA season predictions. Who do you guys think will have the best chance to win the NBA Finals this season? Join me in the comment section down below and tell me what you guys think. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to hit that notification bell to be notified of new videos in the future. Please make sure you share this video with friends and family. My name is Nathan, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to just keep loving sports, and I'll see you next time.